Welcome back to Unreal Engine 5, Blueprint Mastery, Door Systems and Interactive Portals. So, last time we left off with downloading our third-person character with adding to our project, the third-person template. Now, let's explore what we have in the third-person template. We have a folder of blueprints, we have a folder of input and a folder of maps. The maps has the third-person template map, which if I open it and press play, I can see the third person character, I can move some boxes around, I can jump, and that's pretty much it. Now, when we go to our map and press play, there is none of that. We can see no character jumping around, we have just a camera moving. Well, why is that? The reason is because there is inside the third person folder, we can see this folder blueprints, which has the third person character that we were using and controlling, and it has the BP third person game mode. What is a game mode? A game mode is a special blueprint that has rules specified per level. Like on this level, we will have one game mode. On the third person map template, we have another game mode. Well, we will have the same, but right now we have no game mode here. So it is a default game mode. It's not the third person template game mode. So how do we change the game mode on our map? Next to the details over here, we can see world settings. Now, if you cannot see world settings, we can go to Window and enable it over here, world settings, and it will or appear like this, somewhere on the layout, or it will appear docked over here, which as you can see, you can dock it anywhere you want. You can even dock it over here. But this is the most usual place. Anyway, how do we change the world settings, the game mode? How do we override it? Well, there is this option, game mode over here, that we can set game mode override and select our BP third person game mode, and it will be, that's it basically. If I press play now, the character will appear, it will appear dropping and dying. Now, why didn't it appear wherever I want? Well, I can control this first of all with my camera. I can press play here and the character appears here. But why in the other map was appearing always in a certain place even if we didn't have the camera there? Well, the reason is because game mode has some extra functionality, that we are going to override later on the tutorial. But that functionality is about spawning the character. And which character? It depends on another functionality called default pawn class. And here we can see the default pawn class is the BP third person character. If I set this to none and I press play, spawns nothing. I can't even move. So I'm going to change this back to third person character. And we need to set a player start. How do we do this? A new button over here appears. Well, it doesn't appear, but we're going to explain it right now. So I'm going to click on it, and this is the button to quickly add something to your level, something to the viewport basically, because later on the viewport could handle multiple levels. As you can see in my Unreal, there is a level tab here, which is called sub-levels, but we won't get into it. Now, let's go here and let's add a player start. And this is our player start. This is how it looks like. It has a controller and a flag and this capsule shape, which is a collision, actually, a capsule shape collision. I'm going to bring this player start somewhere here. I'm going to press end, so it goes to the ground. And I'm going to press play. Now you see, we have our character over here, and our camera doesn't matter where it is. It could be like over here. I'm pressing play, character is here. Now, how this is controlled, we're gonna see it later on some next tutorials, because we're gonna override its own functionality in the functionality of how the game mode chooses a player start. Now, we have created a player start, we have added our game mode, and it spawns our character that we will be playing and testing our code. But before we dive into the first door, let's again close all the levels. Doesn't seem to save. This seems to be a temporary setting. There are other ways to hide visibility through code and assets, but we won't do this now. So, before we dive into blueprints and start coding, let's explain a little bit what are blueprints. Well, Blueprints is the Unreal Engine visual scripting system. And what is a scripting system, a visual scripting system? Consider having blocks of code with ready behavior and just connecting that logic in the order you want to. Because code has been rewritten so many times and it's not always efficient to reinvent the wheel, rewrite the code that has been written so many times. Unreal offers the blueprint system, which is already blocks of code in a visual representation that do certain things, and we arrange them in a special order that it makes sense for the machine to know what we ask it to do. Saying this means that we have a lot of different types of blueprints as well. For example, there is the level blueprint that we will use to control our first door. But besides that, there are widget blueprints which control the UI. There are actor blueprints that do specific things in our game. For example, our switch will be an actor. There are character blueprints that is our character that we are using and controlling. There are animation blueprints that control the character's animation. There is the game mode blueprint, which is the special blueprint about the level. For example, what are the rules of the level. It can host some multiplayer logic. It has specific task. That's why it's game mode blueprint. The player controller blueprint. I know all this might sound scary to someone new, but it's just a system to categorize functionality. We have the system for the widgets, we have the system for the characters, we have the system for the animations, the system for the multiplayer and gameplay. It's all categorized into specific systems. A very well optimized system that Unreal offers. Now, let's begin by opening our first blueprint, which would be the level blueprint, a blueprint dedicated for this level. I'm going to go to this button, a new button, that when I press it, we can see some options to create a new blueprint class, to convert selections to blueprint class. But what we want is to open level blueprint. This is not the typical image we see on a blueprint, the typical layout, but it is enough to explain a few things. Right here, we have the event graph, which hosts the functionality of our blueprint. This is the place that we write a lot of our code. Next to it, we can see the details panel, which right now are selecting the class defaults. Over here, we can see the debug for our blueprint, which we will use when we are going to be debugging the code that we are doing. And on the left side, we can see My Blueprint tab. In other blueprints, we would see a Components tab and some other tabs over here, a construction script, which is used for hosting code and logic when we are running the blueprint on the editor before the map. We're going to demonstrate a little bit of that logic. And the viewport, which hosts, actually, let's go see them. Talking about them without seeing them is not a good point. On the content file, I'm going to right click and create a new folder. And I'm going to name this folder Blueprints. Also, I'm going to color code this folder. I'm going to right click on it, set color, and set it to blue. And inside this blueprints, I'm going to right click and go to blueprint class. And here we can see the different types of blueprints we talked about a little bit. The actor, the pawn, the character, the player controller, the game mode based, the actor component, scene component. There's there's a lot of classes of blueprints that we can create. What we're going to select right now is just an actor. I'm going to name this BP test. And let's open it. Now, as you can see, this is the difference with the tutorial map. Right here, we have just the event graph and my blueprint and details. Whereas here, we have the components tab, the viewport, the construction script, and the event graph. That has some nodes to demonstrate some functionality. Anyway, and here we have the components tab. This is what I wanted to explain, that in the viewport, we can add things to our blueprint. For example, we can add a cube. And we're going to program this cube in this blueprint to do some behavior. Whereas here in the level map, because it's about the level, we do not have this viewport tab. And the reason is that the viewport of the tutorial map basically is this viewport. Everything in this level is basically a component. It's not, but it can be a component of this. Saying this, let's bring a duplicate of a door. I think this is, yes, this is the door with the handle. I'm gonna bring this door, I'm gonna press Alt and bring it over here. And I'm gonna rotate it like this. No, I want it from the other side, like this. 90 degrees. Go to details, minus 90. Okay, it's fine. Now, this, as you can see, is not snapping very well. So what I'm gonna do is, over here we have the snapping point at 10. I'm gonna choose 5, I'm gonna lower it, and I think it snapped well. Yes, snapped well. Now, I'm gonna go to the tutorial map, I'm gonna right click and create a reference to prop pack EU6.6. Zoom in. Now, this is this because I had it selected. When I have something selected, like let's say for this wall example, I can right click and bring a reference to it in the level blueprint. We don't actually need the wall. I'm gonna delete this. We just need the prop pack. That's what the door. Let's call it the door from now on. And this is door 1. I renamed the wall. This is why it's in level 1. It shouldn't be in level 1. This is, I choose this. This is supposed to be in extra items. So I'm gonna move it from here to level 1. I'm gonna drag and drop it here. Would be easier to just close the file, maybe, and rename it here to door 1. Not good. This is wrong wall. And we have the door here. So right now we renamed it. If I compile here, you can see it changed the name here also. So what do we want to do with this door? We have it here. What we will do is program it to open and close based on how close the player is. Not how close, actually the player will come close to it, the door will open, the player will go to another spot, and the door will close. Anyway, I think I said too many things for this lesson. Gonna see you in the next one. Goodbye.